What's up, you beautiful chuds? So, Shudder, the fantastic streaming service that, of course, are not a sponsor of this. They're more than welcome to sponsor me, but we know they're not going to. But if you want to, get hold of me. But I'm doing this video because I want to talk about some of the movies that I would absolutely love to recommend that are available on Shudder right now. Now, of course I'm in the UK, so I don't know if these are going to be available in the US or worldwide. But right now, these are going to be some movies that I want to recommend from Shudder in the UK that are available right now. But Shudder really has been a great thing for me and so much or so many people in this horror community because I grew up, of course, in the VHS era. I had my obsession with horror started very, very young. And of course, I was watching all of these, going to my library that was Blockbuster and renting these movies or buying them. And then, of course, it became all about DVDs. And then that opened up a world of everything because when DVDs happened, it meant that then I could start getting, the movies that I'd never seen before or didn't even know about. I could start getting them imported from America. And then, of course, Blu-ray and so on like that. But then, of course, streaming happened. At first, of course, it was a little bit weird, right? It wasn't Blockbuster. But then things like Shudder happened, and Shudder has been such a great thing. And I'm talking about me personally as well, has been a great thing for my journey through horror because even though I'd spent my life with VHS tapes, with DVDs and importing them and Blu-rays and so on, there were always going to be movies that escaped me that I didn't know about, or movies that I'd always wanted to see and hadn't been available in the UK. If you live in the UK, you always know, like I have, that it has always done everything it can to push aside horror, to not promote, to force horror out of the mainstream. It has done everything it can to ban what it can. But now, of course, horror has become more popular than it ever has been, which means places like Shudder are more popular than so many other streaming things out there as well, and they're so popular within the horror community. So that's why I wanted to start doing some videos where I'm going to give you some recommendations from Shudder. Now, there are a lot of great movies that are iconic in the world of horror on Shudder. For example, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, John Carpenter's Halloween. You can watch them on Shudder. I'm not going to be talking about them though. I want to give you some movies that I think are truly fantastic movies that don't get spoken about enough. They might be movies that people don't know about or haven't seen yet, and I couldn't recommend them more. And that's what this is going to be. But it's not just going to be this video. I'm going to try and do a few videos. Essentially, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to try and do 3 movies per one of these episodes of movies that I absolutely love and think you should watch, and give you some reasons as to why and talk a little bit about them. But I'm going to keep going until I don't think there's anything else that I can recommend anymore, because I'm not just going to give you shit movies. I'm going to give you movies, as I said, that I think that you may not know about and may not know they exist, but you absolutely should. So the first one that I want to talk about is When Evil Lurks from 2023. So this is an Argentinian horror. It's directed by a name that I'm going to get wrong, so I apologize. Demian Ragnar. This movie is what I would consider in many ways to be a masterpiece of modern horror. In fact, there is another movie that I would consider to be as well, but in a different way. But this movie is a very important movie to me because it goes against type for me for what I like about horror. So if you know the podcast or know the videos and so on, I'm not the biggest fan of modern day horror unless it exceeds expectations and is a fantastic movie like When Evil Lurks. But the thing I don't like about modern day horror is its nihilistic tone and approach on everything. There is very little hope and optimism in horror anymore, and it doesn't do a lot about being fun in these sort of the movies, or the genre has taken a turn, as I said, towards the nihilistic approach of horror. Now that may change down the line and people might want fun again. I don't know, but this is where we are right now. And in 2023, this movie came out and I had heard that sort of things about it. So I watched it, and it is, as I said, what I consider to be a masterpiece of modern horror, because this is one of the most nihilistic, meanest, nastiest sort of movies in regards to what happens in it. I'm not talking about, it's not like, I mean, there is some fucked up things that you see in this movie. And I'm not talking about where it's a sadness, where it's like you're sitting there and like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Should I be watching this? No, like this is a movie that is perfectly put together. It is structured very well. You have absolutely fantastic performances, but it is a movie that earns its right to make me feel like shit at the end of it. A lot of these movies don't earn the right to make me feel like shit at the end of it. There are so many movies that you get to the end, and as I said, there's no hope, there's no optimism. Everyone dies, and you have to earn it. It doesn't earn it. So much of horror these days do not earn the right to make me feel like that. And When Evil Lurks absolutely does. When Evil Lurks is when the residents of a small rural town discover that a demon is about to be born among them. They desperately try to escape, but it may be too late. It's such a truly fantastic movie. As I said, performances are great. The movie is almost part of like a redemption sort of story before for our main character in the movie, but every step of the way it might not go right for him. When I'm doing these, I'm not trying to give spoilers, and I don't want to put too much out there because, as I said, I'm talking about movies that you may not have seen, and I want you to go and see them. So I'm not going to talk too much about the things that happen in it, but what I will say is that this movie does something that is very, very important to horror. In fact, it does the two things that are most important to horror: unpredictability. To be unpredictable in horror is not necessarily an easy thing. And I don't mean that in regards to like you've never seen it before, so you don't know what's going to happen. That's part of it, right? Because if you've never seen something before, you don't know what it's going to happen. But this keeps on taking turns, or things keep on happening, or the images that we see in this movie are things that you don't expect to happen, you don't expect to see, or the things that where the story goes from here to there, you do not expect it. It has some gut-wrenching scenes throughout this movie, and it ends without saying too much. I'm not going to say any more about the end, but it's insane, this movie, and it is very unpredictable. So it ticks that box. But also it's the iconography. There is the moments in it, there are things that truly stand out that you won't forget, that will live on in your memory. And a lot of that is obviously through the imagery that we will see, the iconography of the actions that take place and the imagery that it's depicted in for us to see. That's where it gets real fucked up, and it creates the iconography. So When Evil Lurks from 2023, this is a movie that I couldn't recommend more. It is what I consider to be a masterpiece of modern horror. The next movie that I've got is a movie that I absolutely love. It's also another movie from 2023. I think it may even be 2022. I can't remember. It might be 2022 or 2023. It is a movie that I absolutely love. It is a movie that has now, since it's come out, been added to my every year Halloween watch list. It is a movie that I enjoy so much, but for so many reasons. This isn't just a basic, straightforward movie because of so much that goes into it, and that is Deadstream. This is a horror comedy where a disgraced internet personality tries to win back his followers by live streaming himself at an abandoned haunted house. When he accidentally unleashes a vengeful spirit, his comeback event becomes a fight for his life. This movie is directed by Joseph and Vanessa Winters, a power couple in the world of horror, but it also stars Joseph Winter. And also, one of my favourite parts of this, or one of the things that I love about the creativeness and the way that they implement things into this movie, the soundtrack and the way that it's implemented into the movie is so fun, so unique, and the soundtrack itself is awesome. Also made by Joseph Winter. So load of talented people, and I mean a load of talented people behind the scenes went into creating this movie. But Deadstream is so much fun. It's like a live streaming sort of Evil Dead 2. It's very funny. It's very, it has the blood, it has the guts, it has the gore. It is very creative. Now, this is the type of movie that, bear with it, right? Because there are a lot of people out there that don't give this movie the chance as much because Joseph Winter, as I said, like from the synopsis, he plays basically a YouTuber. And even though I'm sitting here and I've got a video on YouTube and I'm putting it out there for you, but there are YouTubers out there that I find can be incredibly infuriating, right? And they're very YouTuber like, right? And although I'm setting myself up there, aren't I? But they're very YouTuber like, and he is really playing into that, and he does it so well that it's believable to the point that people actually believe that he is like that. And of course, he's not. He's the director and star of this movie, so you have to bear with it. But if you can, it makes the movie so much better because you look at what he's doing and the way he's doing it, and you realize essentially he's taking the piss, right? But that's the start of the movie, and then as we go further into the movie, his cowardice or the braveness starts coming out after being the coward that he is most of the movie. But it's very, I just this movie is very much something what I love when it comes to a horror comedy. This is something I love. I love different types of humor, different types of comedy, whether it's the straight comedy or whether it is the slapstick comedy. And this is very silly. This is a very silly movie. The comedy in this can be slapstick, can be very silly, but it doesn't mean that it's dumb. It is not. This is not a dumb movie whatsoever. It's very clever. It's very creative. It's very unique, and it is a movie that once again I always recommend to people. It is definitely a movie that you can just put on and enjoy, and as I said, I put it on now every Halloween. So Deadstream is another one that I absolutely 100% recommend. And the last one that I've got is a movie called The Cleansing Hour, which is a movie very different to the others. This is a movie from 2019. This one, two friends, Max and Drew, live stream. Although I say very different. Yeah, they do live stream. I didn't even think about that, but they live stream in this a bit like Deadstream, but not like Deadstream because they live stream a staged exorcisms on the internet. Things go south when Drew's fiancee Lane is possessed by a real demon who starts threatening the nature of their relationship. Directed by Damien Levesque, and also there's not really a known cast in this apart from one person that if you know horror or you know movies, you will know that Carl Garner, who is a favourite among many people, obviously fantastic actor, puts in a lot of great performances. He is in this movie as well. This is a movie that I put on very similar to so many movies because I love horror, right? So I will watch horror. If I see it and I'm like, that sounds all right, let's see what it's like. In all intents and purposes, this should have been one of those movies that is utter shite. It is not. Once again, just like all the movies that I'm speaking about on this and going forward, it is creative. It is unique. It is trying to do something and it is trying to be something. It is trying to make something that is entertaining, but make something that sticks with you, something that you remember. There is a lot to really like about The Cleansing Hour. And when you have a movie where you sit there and you're like, I'm trying to think of the bad, but so much of it is outweighed by the good, and you can only really think about the good of the movies, well, then you know you're on for a winner, right? And Cleansing Hour is one of those. If I sit here right now and try and think of the bad, it's very difficult for me to do that, which is why it's a big recommendation for me that this is a movie that should have been, we get these exorcism movies all the time, and most of the time the story is you've got an exorcist, you've got people that need an exorcism, or the story centers around an exorcist, and normally they've lost their way, right? They're not really, they don't feel like they believe in the Holy Spirit, a God anymore, right? And then they get brought back into that. That's not what this is. This is literally these essentially scam artists trying to make money off God and Jesus and spiritualness of life, right? It doesn't go well for them. And once again, it means that it's creative, it's unique, it's trying something different. Good performances all the way through. There is some questionable effects in it, of course, but once again, it's a low budget movie. What do you want from it? But it does something that not every horror movie does, and that keeps you entertained from start to finish. And when you get to the end, and when it's finished, once again, it does something that not every horror movie does, and that is makes you want to watch it again. I think I've seen this movie probably 3 or 4 times now, and it's a movie that I'm like, do you know what? Like, if I finish this and somebody's like, should I come over and watch Cleansing Hour? Absolutely. Not that they will, but if they did, I would. So there we go. That's another recommendation. So on this episode, I say episode, but on this video, and of course, I said there will be more. I'm recommending you When Evil Lurks, Deadstream, and The Cleansing Hour, all available on Shudder now. As I said, in the UK, that's where they're available. I don't know if they're available worldwide everywhere. But if in the UK and you haven't seen these movies, absolutely watch them. I recommend them. And then, of course, if you do watch them, let me know in the comments what you thought about them. If you think they're shit, do you know what? That's fine. Why? Because horror is subjective. It is the most subjective genre it's meant to be. There are so many movies that I absolutely love that you all hate, and there are so many movies that you hate or love, or so many movies that you love that I hate. Is that the right way around? I don't know. But either way, these are movies that on Shudder that I absolutely recommend. And of course, I will do another video recommending another 3 movies that for you to watch on Shudder. And as I say, we keep going, or I keep going until there isn't any more that I would recommend, because there's nothing but trash, because there is some absolute trash on Shudder, but then also there's so much trash in the horror genre. It can't all be good, right? It would be lovely if it was, but it's not all going to be good. These 3 movies are absolutely bloody brilliant, so go and watch them. Anyway, until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.